Greetings and welcome to the Home Slice. This is a standard intro. If you already know what's up with my 40mm Manila rope testing, the ANDE rope test, then you can skip to this time listed on screen. This is where the actual edge test begins. If you haven't been here before, then you've caught me in the middle of a testing series where I'm taking Victorinox knives because they're simple steel that's mainly just steel. There's not a bunch of extra alloys and carbide things going on in them. And I'm testing what different sharpening stones do to them. I'm testing fine, medium, and coarse stones individually. Then I'm taking the best from those and I'm making what's called a dual grit edge. If you're new to the channel, a dual grit edge is where you sharpen one side coarse or medium and the other side of the edge you sharpen fine. It has some really interesting characteristics. Usually it creates an aggressive edge that lasts longer than it normally would with either coarse or fine, with some exceptions, which we're testing to find out. Anyway, my test consists of, I've got a little goofy rig that I slice through a 1 centimeter thick sisal rope, and it's on a 45-degree wedge. It's intended to transfer that force down, and then I measure how many kilograms of pressure it took to slice through the rope while holding the rope vertical. That's intended to take forward motion and quantify how much pressure it took to slice through. This gives you some rough idea of edge aggression. The next test is to cut through a 40mm thick Manila rope, and then I test on a Best machine tester to test how keen and nice the edge stayed. I do that until it's over 400 grams on the Best tester, checking with microscope and checking to see when it loses shaving capability in between tests. After 3, I will hammer the edge into a pine piano leg, and that's just to see if any of the edges break on impact. There are certain sharpening methods I've found that create an edge that's not as robust to impact tasks, and I want to kind of weed those out because for a working edge, I want it to be reasonably durable. Anyway, that's what we're testing for today. In just a second, we'll skip right over to the test footage, and I will let you know what the finishing stone that we're actually testing was.
Just a note before we get started, some guys have asked for scaling, and this is a measuring tape in millimeters. And as I try to get that mark on the left-hand side centered, I find I can't quite get the mark on the right on screen. So my best guess is that fully zoomed in, as all these tests are, my microscope, the full screen shoots about 1.8 millimeters. Now I've put 36 hyphens on screen, which means each of those is roughly 50 microns. So I'll bring that back later in the videos for scale. If you've been following along in this series, you'll know that the best aggression numbers that have been put up by a single stone has been the CBN 800. Indeed, this edge is quite aggressive, putting up a number of 0.8 here. And the best longevity or edge retention that we've experienced has been the Arkansas translucent stone. I wondered about putting the two stones together into a single edge to see if we could maybe select some of the best performers and they would turn into some kind of super edge. But honestly, under the microscope here, after my normal deburring process, flat denim with mother's mag, we're looking a little bit flaky. It's not quite as bad as the wire edge that we saw, which had formed off of the Japanese natural stone when we paired that with the diamond stone. But it still gives me a cause for a little bit of concern when we see that little glint on the other side of the edge where it's reflecting. Nice and aggressive to start off and flew through the rope with a reading of 312. So not bad off the first pass through the ANDE rope, not shaving by the time it went through it once, but none of the edges that I've tested so far have been on these Victorinox knives. Start to see some concern by pass 2, we're already up to 371. Although 3 passes through the ANDE rope is a pretty normal amount, and indeed we are done. We're over 400 grams at 3 passes through the ANDE rope. So this dual grit edge, although it combines two sort of super stones that performed really well on their own, performs about the same as any ordinary edge that you might make with a single stone in my testing, getting 3 passes through the ANDE rope before being dull enough that it registers over 400 grams on a best machine. Though it is worth noting, you could probably pop that wire edge off with some more intense stropping, but as some of these dual grit edges haven't required that, I probably won't put a lot of further effort into this edge at this time. And it would appear that it's not as simple as just plugging in the stones that do the best by themselves. There's a little hair on the edge there to give you a little bit of scale. I thought for a second it was wire edge, and I kind of examined it for a second, but it's actually from my attempt at shaving. Anyway, it would appear that some of these stones, which are softer and leave a bit of a foil burr or foil edge left on the stone, on a dual grit edge sometimes have a beneficial effect against that coarse side of the stone. We've got 4.1 kg of aggression loss, and that is one of the poorer results. We've clearly got some bending, and we've clearly got a bit of wire edge here with the Arkansas Translucent, which kind of goes to show that harder stones like the Arkansas Translucent that are really good at deburring themselves for good longevity actually don't always carry those characteristics into a dual grit edge either, but are sometimes a little more unpredictable. This is not an edge that I would recommend a lot, and we'll have to put some more work into seeing whether these trends sort of hold steady. Anyway, if you want to see a link to my last video, it's on screen now. It was a mind-boggling result with the CBN 400 and Suhiro Serax Fine. For the rest of you, I'll say peace out from the home slice. You guys take care. Bye.